welcome to Book Club no Kiseki. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Matt Jorgensen.
And the section of Falcom's Kiseki series that we'll be discussing today is the penultimate chapter of The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky SC, entitled Land of Chaos. But before we get to all of that, what's shaking, Bacon?
What's shaken is that I was really excited to be using my recording booth again so that my audio would sound really great. But it turns out the computer in my recording booth sucks, so it wasn't working. So I'm frustrated by computers.
Yeah, that sounds yucko.
It did sound yucko.
Yeah, it was like half robot, half like an audiobook at 1.5 speed, and it was not podcast quality.
No. But I'll try and fix that, and hopefully I can do my recording booth soon, because it's so weird that I actually get to have a recording booth, because my closet has a weird smaller closet in there, so I put up some moving blankets on the walls, and now I have a really nice recording booth in my home for some reason. So I should use it.
Your closet has a closet? What are you, Bender?
I don't get that joke.
You're going to live here in a closet? I don't get you humans.
So in Futurama, Bender lives in like a 2 foot by 2 foot shack because he's a robot. He just needs a place to plug in and go to sleep. That's all he needs for his apartment. And so Fry needs a place to live. So he goes to live with Bender, and they're both like squished in it. And so Bender is like, oh, well, I guess you could spread out into my closet. And his closet is a entire like human-sized apartment with like windows and everything. And so it never occurred to Bender because it's just his closet. And he's just like, why the hell do you humans want to live in my closet? That's weird. Yeah,
I don't remember this. It's been so long since I watched Futurama.
And it's like episode 2 because it's just their apartment from then on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why my closet has another smaller closet in it. But it works.
It works. What about you, Matt? What's been shaking with your bacon?
A whole bunch. We got a new kitty. He's adorable. He needed a home, and that's like one of the things me and Rebecca agreed that we didn't have to talk with each other about. Like if like we could just say yes to an animal.
That is a hell of a marriage rule between you guys. Normally, that's like a huge conversation with everybody. You are beautiful souls for just always saying yes to animals.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always mean that like said critter stays indefinitely with us, but if it's like, you know, the difference between them having a place and not having a place, it's just you just say yes. That's just what you do. For us anyway.
That's nice.
Have
you named it yet?
Not yet. We're trying to gauge a personality.
Is it are you looking for a masculine name or a feminine name?
We don't actually know. So,
it's hard to tell with kittens.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell with kittens. And he did, so I say he because we were supposed to get the boy kitten because we already have Nia, who is a very territorial female. And unless we get like a fairly unterritorial female, they won't get along. But you don't generally have that problem with male cats and female cats. It's similar to dogs.
I had a territorial female cat who hated her male roommate cat when she had a male roommate cat. But maybe she's just mean.
Usually it's not like. Usually it's. So what I'm talking about is specifically the interaction between an adult cat and a kitten.
Oh.
It has something to do with animal psychology, which I am not an expert in. I was just told that, hey, this is the best thing to do, and I've seen it work out. So I said, sure, let's try that. But also, this particular kitten had a sister who was the exact same color. So when we picked it up, we took the first gray one we could find because they were the ones rejected by their mom because they had another thing that just happens in nature. And so we'll find out at some point.
Okay, because I was going to then suggest Legend of Dragoon names of the appropriate masculinity or femininity, because that's my brand.
So I actually, since like Nia got her name because
Xenoblade?
Xenoblade, and like that was the game I was playing when she was like, when I made the realization that she was actually going to survive. And which was a great feeling, but like I was mid a very important section involving that character that I think everybody in this podcast knows what I'm talking about.
I was about to reference that, but I was like, just in case someone who's listening hasn't gotten to that point, I don't want to rob it of its kick-assness.
I think I know what you're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I was actually thinking if we did end up with the female one and it has like female traits, because I don't care if I don't care a feminine or masculine name, but Poppy would be a very cute.
Poppy would be great. Poppy actually is agendered enough that's the cat's name now. It's just Poppy.
Well, I gotta get permission because I named the last two critters, and it's Rebecca's turn and then some.
But
Poppy
also
is a good name, though.
But also, she has like what 950 hours on that game. I'm sure she'll be okay with Poppy.
Yeah.
When I had go ahead.
I was gonna say the question is if we're going with Poppy because it has like a pretty. So, like, immediately little one, which is what we're calling it now, like, establish that Dimitri's not the one in charge, which is easy to do. He's not a brave dog. So, the real toss-up is Poppy or either Mithra or Pyra.
What's the fan name that they gave to both of them?
I don't remember.
To the blue one. Numa is what they...
That's not bad. That's not bad either.
Yeah. With a P-N-E. Numa.
Weird.
Yeah.
When I had
also,
a tiny little...
CW, since you're listening in the chat, because we're recording this live, I don't think we ever said that we recorded these lives, but CW, since you're listening, ignore what we just said about the third one. Forget that.
Oops.
No, that one's Smash Brothers spoiled that one.
Okay.
Because I
don't
think
blame us. Blame Sakurai.
Yeah, blame Sakurai. He can take the heat. He single-handedly made a Smash Bros. Game.
Yeah, the Xenoblade 2 content in Smash Brothers does sort of spoil a big thing.
It spoils it. So let's tangent since we're tangenting.
Yeah, it happens.
Smash Bros. Spoils a lot of like Xenoblade and Xenoblade 2, and like even some of the Persona 5 stuff. Like the spirits and such, like there's a lot of spoilers in there. You can get like not for Royal, but vanilla Persona 5. You can get endgame spoilers if you're not careful.
That's hilarious. But yeah, so I have had a pretty crazy week. So, and it, I'm torn on if I should do this or not because we're recording this before this gets announced, but everyone listening, including the ones right now, already know. And this won't be put in the feed until after the other one is. But tomorrow as of recording, last week as of you hearing this, if you're a Ko-Fi follower, so the movie night for Blue Reflection when we watch Pretty Cure is Eli's last episode of the podcast, and that's weird because Eli's been a co-host for 5 fucking years now, but the person who will be filling in their shoes is our friend Bernard, who is on the microphone right now.
Hi.
And
Yay, Bernard!
I'm like really excited for Bernard to take over a lot of the things that I do. And
What?
none of the editing or anything like that, but you have done that in the past, so maybe. But like already we've been like bouncing ideas and stuff, and it's been great, and so I'm super excited for that.
Oh,
but,
I have plans.
Yeah,
I have plans for this podcast.
Me too.
I'm going to run this podcast into the ground. I'm going to producers this shit.
Hell yeah! But
you can get more subscribers with a flop than with a hit.
So first things first, we need to find a mattress company.
But I'm planning on reaching out to a bunch of like our old listeners, so like reaching out to Essie and Tris and stuff, and getting people to like surprise Eli on his last thing and try to pack the recording stage as much as possible.
Aww.
So, because Eli's leaving, he said just because he's getting really busy with like work and things haven't been lining up for him to be able to play as much, and it just works better for him to move on, which is totally fine. It happens. And but when he was like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Like I'm really busy with work, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, you can like step away. Like I've taken now 20 seasons worth of weekends from you. Like you can step out whenever you want to. He's like, yeah. And I feel like I haven't brought anything to the podcast in a long time, which is absolutely false. And because he's feeling down on himself, and I know that everybody loves him. I'm planning on getting everybody, like Rizzo's going to record with us tomorrow, like getting everybody back to give Eli a big send off, and I'm super excited for that.
So I'm not just saying this, and y'all know I love you, but when I listened to the first couple of episodes, I'm pretty sure it was Eli that like hooked me.
Yeah.
So like, just wanted to throw that out there.
Eli was the heart and soul of this podcast, and so thankfully you're replacing him with a soulless automaton that is Bernard.
Yes.
It'll be great.
Don't worry,
but
we'll pump you with 120% grade A soul, Bernard.
Awesome.
yeah. So
Looks like
so yeah, and then this next week will be 3 days for us instead of 17 days for us like it normally is. So not a lot will happen between now and Sunday, I guarantee it, but we will have beaten a great video game. So let's talk about that video game and listen to some music and then talk about the plot for the week. Matt, what's the cold open that you're going to forget exists?
I was about to ask because I actually remembered this time because it was funny. But do we want to continue the tradition of pretending I forgot the cold open?
No. You get this is your redemption.
All right. But next week I'm forgetting it on purpose. The cold open is, you know him, you love him, the Cap was. They're using a periscope to spy out the floating city. I have questions about why we're using a periscope on an airship when you can just
Look out the window.
Maybe it has telescoping features.
Like,
I mean, it does. It zooms in at one point.
Oh,
as somebody who
but you could just like look through the window with a telescope.
Yeah.
Exactly. As somebody who is considered, who's looked into out of boredom what it would cost to install a periscope on something, it is infinitely cheaper to just use a telescope.
Especially because these airships, like the bridges, have like glorious views. Like it is windows wrapped around like 270 degrees of the bridge.
And we've had a lengthy explanation about why it's safe to go out on the deck. So you could also go out on the deck and use the telescope there.
But they're the capitalists, so we pretend it's fine. They're like, wow, what a ship. And sure is. And they're going to plan to land on it, but, and we know what's happening here. There's a bright flash of light. And suddenly, that airship is deciding it wants a new career path. What would be a ground ship? And it hard pivots.
Yeah, its career path takes a downward turn, literally.
I don't want to leave this for memorable moments because I'm worried I'll forget. But when you see the inside of the ship, it's like just this little set in a black void. And I love how it looks when the whole set just sort of tilts and slides off screen. I love the way that looks.
It's so good.
Anyway, and that's our cold open. The ship is going nose first straight into the ground, and we get the Chapter 8, Land of Chaos. The chapter kind of like, I don't want to say it's another cold open, but it's like a season break open.
Yeah, it's a establishing shot type.
We shoot around to all the places we know and love, and we see stuff not working because all of it's powered by Orbital stuff. So like the Bridge of Rune, airships are crashing. Well, it looks like the airships are crashing or like not taking off.
Yeah.
They importantly, the Bridge at Ruin is, or Ruan, or however you pronounce it, is in the up position when this happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it can't even, like, it's not even a bridge, it's just a decorative ramp to nowhere.
Yeah, and the escalators in Zeiss are temporarily stairs, and later when you go there are NPCs that are pissed about this because they don't know what to do, as if they're not just stairs, and that's a great joke.
Isn't there a Mitch Hedberg joke about that? He delivers really well that I won't try to deliver because I could never do it as well as him.
Yeah, I was referencing his thing by saying temporarily stairs because I also could never deliver as good as Mitch Hedberg.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy that has a really good starts out as like a joke about the moving sidewalks at airports and escalators. You can't like get off an escalator and go back on stairs. Like, you're nothing more than an organized hill. something like that.
Nice.
That's not the Mitch Hedberg one.
No, it's somebody else.
That's somebody else.
Anywho,
we head back to the guild hall, and we have a talk with Lundgren, and it gets real after school, especially on, wow, look at how dependent we are on this orbital.
what if phone, but too much?
What?
They're real what if phone, but too much about orbits.
It's the thing where the guy's like, I want a world without springs, and then he wakes up in a world without springs, except it's orbital power. And now a weird narrator man is going to explain all the great things orbital power does for us that we don't have now.
Yeah.
What would the world look like without crude oil? So anyways, we get the heads up that Professor Russell has a new invention. And the zero field generator. So
Yeah,
it basically like negates the field that the gospel's putting off that turns off orbments. So like we only had to deal with a world without it for like an hour.
yeah.
Doesn't he say that Cassius had instructed him to make these before this happened because Cassius just knows everything?
Yeah, we saw that in a cold open that Matt forgot to talk about like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Cassius is like, he's like, hey, this is a really big problem, so you should work on it. And Russell was like, oh, after I finish this invention, I'll get right to it. Cassius, not only does everyone know Cassius, Cassius knows everything.
Yes. But yeah, they have like 16 of them, I want to say.
Yeah.
So the army's going to take it to all like their outposts and everything. And then I want to talk about this. I'm sorry. This just makes me so excited. So they have them, but they're really small. So they decide what they're going to do with them is install them in the phones at important places so that they can have communication, because they figure that's the most important thing in this situation. So the army's going to take it to all their outposts, and the party is going to take one to a guild hall in all the major cities. So the party gets 4, I think, because Grancel is going to already have one or something.
I think we get... Hold on, I wrote it down.
Or do we get 5? Anyway, point is, we get a number of zero field generators, and because the orbital shutdown phenomenon is happening, we can't use our arts, which is a huge problem that you have to deal with this whole chapter. But you can...
Tita can't even shoot because she uses an orbital gun.
Yeah.
So she can't do anything unless you equip one.
Yeah, you can equip the zero field generators, and then you can use your arts, and Tita can use her gun. But as you go through the chapter, you get fewer and fewer of them, so you have to adapt more and more to this weird task, and it gets harder and harder. I think that's so cool.
It's freaking phenomenal. And yes, the answer is use Joshua, Agate, and Zen, and they use all crafts and punches anyways. But it's still cool because what if your Agate and your Zen are your shittiest ones because you've just been putting everything into Shara and Chloe like I have? So you just kind of end up with shitty characters, and you gotta like do it, and it's cool. I like it.
And Joshua is like really strong physically, but he comes built to have really strong arts. So this wrinkle makes it harder to use them. I kept a zero field generator on Estelle the whole time because I've built her to be a really good healer. but also I came to really appreciate Zen's composure craft, which restores 3,100 hit points and cures status abnormalities.
Oh yeah.
3,100 hit points is not terribly a lot at this point, but curing status abnormalities at the same time is really nice.
Yeah, Tita just got her second vital bullet thing. So it's a area of effect craft, which makes it instant, that does decent healing, cures status effects, and stat up and down, which is phenomenal. I don't think
stat up and down?
It cures stats up and down, which is
nice.
Insane.
Composure doesn't do that.
I don't think that Tita is leaving my party. I think she might be replacing Chloe as my, because Chloe has a breakable heal, which is really good. Because if I just keep her with high CP always, a boss will hit me. I'll just do her S break and I'll heal from the thing, and that's great. But I think basically having a super heal area of effect every turn might edge it out. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll keep both, because Chloe also is a really good mage.
I love Chloe.
We'll get there. We'll love her even more this week.
Yes, she's not in the party at this point, which is sad.
Yeah. She and Kevin both went to do the Grand Soul one.
Yes, and Olivia, we might recall, left even before that to go be mysterious.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Hold on. Notes. While I'm stalling for time.
Basically, where we are is that, so we decided to go out and take these ZFGs to everybody. Also, the Stargate nerd in me called them CPMs every single time.
I was just going to talk briefly about my party and how it was
go ahead.
Because so Estelle and Joshua, when I got Joshua, I kind of took him down to the studs and built him back up because I had a particular style I wanted to replicate from a future game. It's not a spoiler.
There's just gameplay stuff.
There are future games?
There's games in the future made by mole people. Mole people aside, there is a particular archetype in Trails of Cold Steel that I wanted to replicate on Joshua because I thought he'd be very good at it. And he is. I kind of respect him into being a dodge attacker.
Okay.
And I have Estelle as a dodge tank, which kind of works. So they were missing some of the tools in their toolboxes. And as previously mentioned, my agate is the actual protagonist of this game. So he's I laugh at your petty field, but poor Tita. I had to learn real fast. Okay. So anyway, so at this juncture, you can speed through the game real fast here. If you just take the devices to Roland, Zeiss, and did we agree on Rune or Ruan?
I've been saying Ruan, you've been saying Rune, so
okay.
We have not agreed, and that's okay.
Okay. Then I'll continue to call it Rune, because that's what my brain says. So we can just drop them off and deliver them there. However, you can also kind of make the chapter as long as you want, because every area has a bunch of quests.
And every area specifically has a special, hidden quest. It's hidden because it's not on the board, but, the guild receptionist, which I don't think they're called receptionists. I think they're called something special. But the person at the guild like tells you, "Hey, something weird is happening in the mines," and you go there, and there's like a bunch of story scenes and stuff.
I got distracted and did one about a wedding.
A wedding?
Yeah.
I did not do that one. I only did the mines because we were supposed to record on Monday, and things happened where I only had like 2 hours to sprint through this chapter. So I did the mines one, and then I tried to do one in it's not Bose.
So you didn't do the occupation of Genus Academy?
I did not.
That's so good though.
Yeah, cause you told me that one of them was really good, and I figured it would be the one where like we have a lot of friends, and so I checked Minoria Village and I checked the orphanage, but I did not go and check Genus Academy, and because they mentioned all three of those, but the orphanage you just have a cute little scene with. Is it Dan in this game, or is Dan Xenogears? I don't fucking know. Little redheaded piece of shit. Whatever his name is.
His name is always Dan now. He's always there.
I'm sorry. I just have to. This is again something I'll forget in memorable moments, but I just have to point out. We are going through the entire map of the original 40-hour game, and every NPC has new dialogue about what's going on.
Yeah. And
I know this is just par for the course for this series, but it really struck me this time.
Oh, yeah. Like, I did as much as I needed to, because of the time frame we were in, and now that I work retail, it was like, when I was supposed to be playing was falling right in our, like, post-Black Friday restock. So, like, being the assistant manager, essentially, it's not the right name, but I don't care. I don't want to explain assistant store leader. Meant I was constantly on call and answering questions when, like, my boss wasn't there to answer the questions and no one could get a hold of her. So, like, I don't think I was under as much pressure to, like, get done initially as I thought I was. It was just life feels really busy, so, like, everything is now, the speed with which I want to get everything done has escalated, if that makes sense. So I did enough of, like, the boss fights to, like, figure out, because it isn't until later that I realized, oh, well, this is the negative thing that's impacting me right now isn't going to be, like, true throughout the game. So I don't necessarily need to figure out, like, this new set of in-game rules perfectly, which Sam will tell you, I'll restart games 3 or 4 times because I don't understand the tutorial perfectly. It irritates me.
Meanwhile, I skip all tutorials and just button mash my way to the end of the game, and then there will be a boss where you only can beat them by using your ultimate mega move, and I will be like, "You have ultimate mega moves?" I've just been smashing the A button the entire game. Oh well.
You're like Tim Rogers' college acquaintance who got to the end of Final Fantasy VII without equipping materia.
Yeah.
Have I told you guys how I completed Final Fantasy XII the first time?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
This is a relevant tangent because it is the root of my problem. I did not understand how the Gambit system worked. So I barely used it, and when I did use it, I was using it upside down.
Oh no.
And that is how I completed Final Fantasy XII the first time. And I disliked that game for a solid 8 months because of it.
Yeah, your dudes would never ever heal.
Yeah, nothing would happen. And like, so it got to the point where I just equipped everyone with the guns because they did a ton of damage, and like, okay, sure, they're slow, but then I would put heavy armor on them, and it was like, this is a dumb way to play this game. Who would enjoy this? And I did not, because this is before good internet hit the rurals, or even like passable internet. So it was not until I had a conversation with my very good friend Grant. Hello, Grant. I know you're listening. How is Indonesia? Anyway, he's like, you do know you're supposed to use that, right? Because like I was like, I didn't like it, and I started describing like, the gambit system doesn't really make sense. I don't know what any of it really means. And like, even when I would put something at the bottom, it would hardly ever happen. It's like,
Working as intended.
oh boy. All right. So here's the things you didn't know about the game. And it was a earth-shattering moment for a young Matt Jorgensen. Like, oh, if I had paid attention to any of the tutorials or actually read the Gambit part of the Prima guide I had purchased with my copy of Final Fantasy XII, I would know what's going on, but I did not. Long story short, Final Fantasy XII is now my favorite Final Fantasy game. You know how it works now.
At least it has a happy ending.
Yeah, I'm weirdly obsessed with that game. Anyway,
I replay it. I haven't played it since a very long time ago.
Yeah, having the 4x speed in modern times makes it very, very, very fun.
I imagine
doing it at just normal speed is just watching other people have fun. Doing it at 5 times speed, it's now an RTS. And RTS Final Fantasy is a pretty cool thing. That's why the sequel to it is a literal RTS Final Fantasy.
I was about to say, isn't that weird DS game actually an RTS?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's surprisingly good. Also, if you restart it anytime soon or anytime in the future, feel free to slide into my DMs. I know an absurd amount about that game, and like one of the many like even like the background stuff that I had to scour like poorly translated Famitsu articles for. So like I remember that the summer Sam was playing it, he'd be like, "Hey, I don't understand this thing," and then he'd get 1,000-word essay on. Well, this is originally the story was probably supposed to be this, according to this article. But like it changed 3 times because the writers couldn't come to a consensus, and like this. Like, I just think Vaughn's voice actor wasn't very good right there. Blow your roll.
Yeah. I just wanted to know where the item shop was, but thanks, I guess. Or it's the I'm not reading all that, but I'm happy for you, or that sucks, whatever. But
my favorite thing about that image is that the person's avatar picture is Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk,
which is so good.
Yes.
But anywho, so yeah, tell me all about the occupation of Genus Academy. That one sounds interesting. The mine one was not, so we don't have to talk about that one.
I like the mines one. It was pretty simple. It was just sort of like, hey, all those NPCs, Falcom has a huge document with all their personalities and interactions with you saved, so a whole game later they can make extensive references to that.
Mm-hmm. Like
And
almost 2 games later, because that was our first mission of the first game, and this is basically our last mission of this game.
that's true. But other than that, not much happened. A character who doesn't have a portrait had a somewhat dramatic moment. Ridge.
Yeah.
But the occupation of Genus Academy was pretty cool. Basically, you're heading that way, and then some student. And Matt, did you do this side quest?
I don't think I did. No.
Okay, then I'll try and remember it as best I can.
Okay.
So you're going towards Genus Academy, and a student runs up to you, all out of breath, and says that it's been taken over by these weird soldiers and archaisms and shit. And so you go there to scope it out, and there is a fucking army there taking over the whole school. And it's clearly the society, and they do have archaisms and orbital weaponry, so they can do that even with the orbital shutdown phenomenon. So they're like, shit, what the fuck are we going to do? We can't just run in. There's too many of them. And this is like the one time that happens in an RPG where I'm like, yeah, instead of, let me take them. So Joshua goes in alone to actually do the spy thing that we've heard that so much that he's good at doing. And you play as him sneaking around the school, looking in the windows, assessing where hostages are and stuff. And you have cute scenes with the student council president, whose name I can never remember, even though I love her.
Jill.
What?
Jill, right?
I wanted to say Jill, but that didn't feel right to me. Yeah, you have cute scenes with her. And then Joshua comes back out and it's like, yeah, this is a bad situation. And they're like, and they've gotten the whole team together. It's not just your party. The rest of your team members have shown up too. And they're like, man, what we could do is we could have a team outside the main gate, cause a ruckus, and then another team sneak in and ensure the hostages are safe. But we would really need exactly 4 more people to do that. What do y'all think happens next?
You are the 4 people.
No, we have the whole party together, but the whole party needs exactly 4 more people in order to pull this off.
Do you get Annalise's team?
Come back?
Yeah, Annalise and Grant and Karna and Kurt. Is Kurt the last one? Yeah,
Yes.
they all show up.
Good.
And and they're like, hey, we arrived at exactly the right time. Let's help you. And Karna, I think it's Karna, like apparently uses a orbital gun, but she has acquired a gunpowder gun, and she talks about how much it sucks compared to orbital guns. But at least it's something. So it sets up a party of you, Joshua, Annalise, and Kurt. So you get to actually play as Annalise a little bit outside
nice.
the prologue. So she wasn't gone forever. She is still here.
Love her.
And you just go in and you have to go and check on all the hostages and take out the soldiers guarding them and stuff. You don't actually take them anywhere. You're just like, hey, you're okay. Stay here. But once you've checked on all the hostages, you hear a scream coming from the old schoolhouse out in the back. So you go there, and who do you find but Gilbert?
Oh.
Gilbert is the one leading this this occupation. And he's doing it because apparently his orders from the society were just to cause a ruckus. But he had decided, apparently, if I'm recalling correctly, Weissman wanted Weissman hadn't ordered this, but just thought it would be great if someone captured the princess, and Gilbert somehow had information that the princess was at Genus Academy. So he's captured this random girl and is like, haha, this is clearly the princess. And then this part bothers me. For some reason, the party is like, no, that hostage you have a knife to is not the princess. She's not important to you. Here is the identity of the actual princess. So now this puts him in a position where he can be like, well, okay, now I can kill this hostage.
Right.
And also now I know who to look for when I continue looking for the princess.
Yeah, that's stupid.
But before he can kill the hostage, I really don't understand what the party was thinking here. But before he can kill the hostage, Sieg flies in and knocks him off balance, and the hostage gets away. And then we fight Gilbert, and hilariously, he's exactly the same as when we fought him 2 chapters ago as Estelle alone. So he's ridiculously easy.
Love that.
And then he's like, no, spare me. And the party is like, okay, whatever. And then, what's his name? The fool. Campanella. He shows up, and he, sets Gilbert on fire for a while. But if I recall correctly, Gilbert survives, and Campanella just warps him away after saying some bullshit. And that's pretty much the occupation of Genus Academy.
That sounds amazing.
They're like, the party's like, yeah, probably the society won't come back. Campanella actually tells them, I think, the society's not coming back to the academy. And so the party's like, good enough for me. And so they leave. And yeah, it's a really good side quest. It has lots of good dialogue and fun. You get Annalise and Kurt in your party, which is fun.
That
awesome.
sounds awesome.
So it's a shame y'all didn't play it.
Yeah, I'm kind of mad.
It is. What probably happened is the guide I was following along, it said stealth section. And as a rule, I avoid stealth sections.
Yeah, the Jonathan part is, or Joshua, not Jonathan. Who's Jonathan? The Joshua part is sort of a stealth section, but also it's more like if you walk in the wrong area, he'll just turn around and go back. And when you need to cross a large field, he just does it super fast, special style. So it's not really a stealth section.
But can Who's Jonathan be the title of this episode?
No, it has to be the title of the chapter.
Yeah, I've already started the though to be fair, I did do one episode last season as in defense of Grover Cleveland's mustache. So maybe this could be the one.
I love Trails in the Sky starring Stella and Jonathan.
Jonathan. No, it's Sky Roads starring Stella and Jonathan.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's really good.
I did. There's an OVA of Trails in the Sky second chapter that I stumbled on. As far as I can tell, only for second chapter, not for first chapter, which is weird. But I stumbled upon it, and I on YouTube, and I just scrubbed through it a bit, and it was the dub, and they consistently called him Josh, and I was like, this sounds so weird.
That is weird.
That's
I
weird.
don't like it.
Every time, in my notes last season, I would write Josh just in shorthand. By the time I would finish the sentence, I would go back and I'd add the UA. It's just his name's not Josh.
Yeah, some people most names can be shortened, but some people you don't shorten their name. It just doesn't work. I don't know.
Patrick.
My first name is David, but if you call me Dave, I won't respond.
Yeah, that's definitely your name is Bernard, but
yes,
but David is acceptable. Dave is not. That's no, that's not you.
That's a different guy.
I don't know, Dave.
No, man, that ain't me. Hey,
Are any of the other side quests notable?
So we talked about the mines. We talked about the occupation of Genus Academy. Let me think. Was there one in Roland?
that's the
Oh,
wedding.
that's the mines.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, there's one where they go to Elmo Village.
Uh-huh.
And this one's really stupid. It's good y'all didn't do this one. They go to Elmo Village, and they're like, the hot spring's not working. And they're like, this is important. So they go into the shack, and Tita's like, oh, I could rig this up to... This is a really old orbment system, so it's really simple. I could easily rig this up to work if we had a combustion engine. And we're like, we know about a combustion engine. So we encountered one a while back, with Professor Russell and stuff. So we're like, let's go to the factory in Zeiss and get the combustion engine. And basically you're just running around the whole continent being like, hey, do you have the combustion engine? No, we sent it over here. Okay, then you go somewhere else and eventually you get the combustion engine and then you're like, oh, we need gasoline. So you go across the continent, finding who has gasoline, all to fix the hot springs. It's really silly.
I'm glad I didn't do that one.
It's annoying. Like, you remember Caldia Tunnel where it's all dark?
Uh-huh.
You have to go through that several times.
That's dumb.
Of course, you use the night vision goggles, but even with those, it's hard to see and it's annoying to get through.
Yeah. What about in Bose? Bose is the other major city we haven't talked about yet.
Oh, does something happen in Bose?
I would guess that something would happen like out by the lake because that's the big.
I don't think I
Not-
stopped out there.
Well, I do know there's tons of fishing to do this chapter because the guide I was following was like, be sure you fish here. And I was like, no.
No, God, no.
Follow
Yeah,
them.
RPG needs fishing, but it doesn't. But I'm not going to do it.
yeah. If there's not a fishing minigame, I feel bad and I'm like, this isn't right. But if you ask me to do the fishing minigame, I'm turning the game off. No way in hell am I fishing in an RPG.
I'll fish a little bit in Final Fantasy 15 because it's an excuse to hang out with my bros.
Yeah.
But nah. I don't think so. But do y'all know about the, what are they called? Dimension slugs or whatever, the dimension bugs or dimension slugs? I forget what they're called.
No idea.
So I was looking at a guide for this. I wasn't following it very closely, but I noticed they were like, if you go to the top of one of the tetracyclic towers, you'll find a dimension bug, and it's this. And there's one on top of each of the tetracyclic towers. And you just go up there. No one tells you to do this, but the guide mentioned that you can do it. You go up there, and there's this weird mini-boss against this really tough, weird, giant slug thing that can split apart. And when you beat it, you get a ridiculously powerful item from each one. You get... Let me see if I can find the stats on one of these, because y'all are going to freak out. So, each of these orbs does a different stat. So, it elevates its main stat by 50, move by 3, and speed plus 5.
Jesus.
Yeah. These are powerful orbs.
Damn, that is a ponderous orb.
I immediately set my guys to ponder them.
Those are some swinging orbs.
That's nuts. Yeah, and looking at on the wiki, they look like the main bad monsters in Digimon Cyber Sleuth, which is cool because that game owns.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's all the side content. At some point, I think when you deliver the last ZFG, because you can do these in different orders, they tell you they got a call from Gransel, and the Queen wants to see you, but it's not urgent.
Yeah, so they start you in Bose, and you have 3 places to go. I went the direction around the continent where my last place that I did was the opposite side of the continent from Gransel, so I had to backtrack through like everything to get there. If I would have gone the other way the first time, I would only be 1 away because I would be in Roland, and I just would go south and would be there. And I felt real dumb walking all the way across the entire world one more time just to get to Gransel.
And just again, this is the entire world map of the previous game that we're just casually going across multiple times this chapter. It's crazy.
It's good.
I'm trying to think if I can find. I'm trying to see if I can find anything about the wedding, but like I
don't know what you're talking about there.
I just started zoning out on it. Like this isn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like Sam said, we got the call from the Queen to come to Gransel. Sorry, we've the notes I did take are fleeting, way far ahead of me.
But
Well, there we are. So when we do deliver the last device, it jumps to an Ouroboros gunship landing in front of Gransel. And old Blue Blanc, Walter, Renee, and Luciola are there. They're like, hey, look, an army. We're going to play some Dynasty Warriors.
Basically.
Like,
it
does not go well for the army.
It does not at all.
The army is not the protagonist of that Dynasty Warriors situation.
It's actually
at home.
It's sort of cool. Like we always talk about how the weird little sprite fights are always surprisingly good. In this one, they actually go into battle scenes and do their S breaks against the army.
Yeah,
it's really dramatic.
It's really cool. So they destroy the shit out of this army like several times over the next couple of cutscenes, and every single time Renee is like, "Can I use my mech, please? I just want to get in a mech and fucking mow down some people." And they keep telling her no. Like they obviously don't need the help, but it's hilarious. It's like, oh, I'm killing them really good, but what if I killed them better? Can I please go get my mech? I just want to kill people real good.
Nice. I'm the only one who doesn't get to use her toy. This isn't fair. So
they announced that they're heading in for Gransel Castle right as we show up to Gransel ourselves.
Yep. So we're playing a weird tag of tag situation where the Ouroboros agents, the Organization 13 are rushing to the Queen, and we're trying to rush to intercept them first.
Yeah, and the whole city is under occupation now, and I think one of the soldiers is still alive and tells us that the enforcers are going to the Queen or something. So going to the castle. So that's what we're trying to do.
There's an important thing I kind of missed that needs to be mentioned. The whole country has rogue anachronisms just roaming around.
Yeah. There's basically a strong monster side quest blocking your way, forcing you to do it, and they're huge, like mini boss level battles with big old robots.
Mm-hmm.
So like this occupation doesn't necessarily come out of nowhere because there's robots everywhere.
Yeah. There's robots and no defenses because everything is orbs.
Yeah, it's important to note that the army is largely useless because they are all trained on orbital guns.
Yeah.
So they're just like, well, shit. I guess we can poke them with our bayonet.
Yeah, if only they were the steampunk country on this continent.
If only they had Ewoks.
What if technology, but too much?
So anyways, they're mowing down the army. We're fighting Ouroboros anachronisms. The whole scene has a very cool sense of urgency to it that is often missing from JRPGs in a similar situation. For me, anyway. Anyway, so the party reaches the terrace, and we see the enforcers. They've got Chloe and the Queen.
So there is one small part that technically could probably go to memorable moments, but I love it. So
The door.
So Walter punches through the door, and it's super cool. But then inside, the Queen, Chloe, Hilda,
this part.
Dunan, and Joseph. Is that his name?
Jonathan?
Philip. It's Philip. You got it right the first time.
Jonathan.
This guy's Jonathan. That's who it is.
No, it's Philip.
It's Philip.
Who's Jonathan?
Amazingly, I don't think there's been a single character in this series named Jonathan so far.
Yeah, probably will be. These games are gigantic, but so far, no Jonathans. But so they're all like, oh shit, they're coming, and Dunan, the Duke Dunan, bowl cut shitty person Dunan, turns to Chloe and the Queen, are like, y'all get out of here, y'all go and like be safe because you are the current queen. Chloe is next in line. I ran things for a while, like I can help us like run the defense, but y'all's safety is more paramount than mine. So y'all get out of here. I'll hold down the fort. And so Chloe and the Queen are like, holy shit, character growth from this fucking guy. And then Philip is like, hey, so I've secretly been Alfred, the guy who trained Batman this whole fucking time, and I'm just gonna go fight them off with a samurai sword because that's a skill that I've had this whole time. And
he reveals that he used to have Julia's job.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a badass, it turns out.
Yeah, he's fucking great. And every other time during our little cat and mouse thing going through the city, we would watch them do some S breaks, destroy people. Then we would, our party would go through, and everyone's just like on the floor, hurt, and you can't even talk to the people. They're like out cold or dead. Here, you go in, the army is down, but Philip's still like on one knee, like he hasn't fully given up yet. He's a badass. I never thought that Butler Philip would be such a badass character, but here we are.
I feel like there's been insinuations that he had a badass past, but yeah, this is where the truth come out.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that, but also like he's a butler in an anime, and I'm pretty sure they lifted this straight from like 90s era Batman, where like Alfred was an SAS commando in World War II.
Yeah.
And like
Or if you read Artemis Fowl, he's a butler with a capital B. The
Yeah.
fucking assassin bodyguard protectors.
But also in these games, like I am firmly convinced that everyone with a character, like an actual character art, either is, was, or will be like a Goku party looking dude. Just that's just my rule of thumb. Like I'm waiting for the queen to like, well, I guess it's time. Rip off the lower part of her dress, hop into her own battle mech.
Yeah, every person with a sprite is like, well, I promised myself I would never use this cursed anime blade, and I'm over here like, oh my god, every single time.
Dan's gonna pull out a fucking gun. Which I think his name is Clem or something, but no, he's Dan.
He's Dan. They're the exact same character. I think I like this Dan a little better than the other Dan, but they feel the exact same.
The other Dan has such an off-putting design.
He really does.
At some point, I'm gonna have to stop and remind myself what old Dan looks like to compare to the ones in future Dan.
So yeah, we make it to the terrace.
So we make it to the terrace. The enforcers are there with Chloe and the queen. They're apparently waiting for Weissman, and they're not particularly waiting for orders from Weissman because Blade Master 420 has been able to handle everything that needed doing by himself. Blade Master was Lowe's like self-appointed thing.
Yeah.
One of his many titles.
Yes.
Yeah. With the little
He's fucking
getting in the end.
Khaleesi over here. It's
More
like,
titles than a Kojima character.
Anyway. So, like, we find out that they basically decided to kidnap the royalty for fun because they just had nothing better to do. Like, they haven't gotten orders from Weissman. I mean, I can't blame them. I guess. I don't know. If I was that powerful, I don't know. I would probably waste it. Like, anyway.
Yeah, it's like they're not trying to take over like they were last game. Like that was truly just a cover for them. Last game when they really wanted to get to the areola, and so they're like, "Oh, are you trying to take over?" They're like, "No, we just wanted to basically be mean to Estelle because
this is a side quest for them."
Yeah,
and not even a particularly hard one.
No. They're just grinding for rare currency off of these mobs.
True. There's so many. There are just so many small goblins outside of Lumbridge Town.
Yeah. Or it's like Final Fantasy 13. This is a humanoid character, so this is the only way you can get Gil in this game is by grinding on a humanoid character. So they came to the big city so that they could get some Gil, so they could upgrade their fucking weapons.
Chips.
Gotta get them.
So anyway, things look real bad because, like, in the past we have struggled against individual enforcers, and 4 of them seems
a little excessive.
Overkill is underrated, but not here. Thankfully, it's interrupted by Sid. He's like, "Hey, I'm here. Look at me," and not the other thing.
Yeah, it was at this point that I realized that Cassius has a ponytail and Sid does not.
Yeah, I thought it was Cassius at first too, but the portrait came up and there was no mustache, and I was like, "Oh,
it's Sid. Never mind."
Huh. I never stopped to think about that, but you're right. The more you know. And he's like, hey, look at me. Which buys just enough time for good old Colonel Richard to show up.
And I want to point out that I called it like 2 episodes ago when Cassius was like, bring him. I said, I bet it's Colonel Richard.
Mm-hmm. Want to know something distressing that I have found out because my game is voice acted? Richard is his last name, and it's Richard.
It's Richard?
Yeah.
Weird.
But Richard is his first name.
I knew Richard was his last name. I forget what his first name is, but weird.
Yeah.
Well, like when he first shows up, they're just calling him Richard, so you just assume Richard is his first name, but then later it becomes clear it's his last name. But at that point, you just call him Richard in your head.
Yeah. Every time they say Richard Sama or whatever the Japanese honorific is for lieutenant, I'm like, nope, that's not happening. I'm just going to keep reading Richard and ignore you every time you talk.
Yeah, this is a Titus situation. Like, I don't care what the actual name is.
Or an Agate Agate situation, even though I've come around on Agate. As a name and as a character. I can't believe I didn't like him at the beginning of this game.
I can't believe I didn't. Did any of us like Agate at the beginning of this game?
No,
but now he's our precious child.
He is. He's the weird uncle at Thanksgiving that you actually want to see. It's like, sure, he's cranky, but like, he always remembers your birthday and he gets you those chocolates you like.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we do one of my favorite tropes in media happens, especially like big fighty media. The cavalry arrives in the form of the former members of the intelligence division. And they are putting a smackdown on the members of Ouroboros in the way that the army could only ever dream about.
This one scene right here does so much world building because most of the members of the intelligence division joined the organization. And we've seen that happen earlier in this game. But Almothea is directing like 20 former Jaegers to be who obviously defected when like the organization showed their hand and they're like, hey, we're actually evil. And they're like, you know what? No, we were following Lieutenant Richard and Almothea. So we're going to follow them. We're not about this destroy the world with a giant fucking flying city shit that y'all are into. No thanks. And that's really cool. This game has a lot of cool shit in it.
It is super cool. This is also a good time to point out that it's kind of a thing in Japanese media in general, but very specifically in these games. And it's not something that translates super well to us Western folk. When they say intelligence division for anything, it just translates into skull-cracking badass.
Yeah, they're
it's and that is an important plot thing through all of these games, that they assume you know ahead of time that when we say intelligence division or anything having to do with like a military division involving intelligence, they aren't just like the CIA,
or like the CIA's SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, they are the bruisers, not the guys cracking codes.
They're Agent Dale Cooper and Super Nadine.
They are like John Wick. Each of them. They all take their masks off and they're all just
John Wick.
Yeah, they're all clones of John Wick. Oh, and Niall. I don't know why I always write it as Neil.
Because that's a real name, and Niall's not, as far as I know.
You're probably right. I also have a Neil in my phone, so it probably autocorrects it from Niall to Neil. But anyways, they're there to record it. I'm waiting for them because they have sprites. They got to be fighting badasses. Like, she's got a ninja death camera.
I also love that Dorothy has had orbment cameras because she's talked about developing quartz. But she, of course, would be the fucking nerd with a film camera, too. And so nothing is working. She's like, well, I can still take pictures because I'm awesome.
Yeah, and they don't like specifically point that out. They just like have Niall mention, like he says a line like, "Take pictures until we run out of film" or something, and it's like, oh, I guess she has a film camera because of course
she would.
That's her hobby. I'm just imagining like the old timey cameras, where you have to hold like the powder. But instead it's like mounted on her back. She's like taking pictures, kneeling down quick. Niall, reload me. Go. And it's at this point that the enforcers decide to leave. Very heavy emphasis on decide, because I'm pretty convinced at this juncture in the game, even with everyone there, we couldn't have made them leave.
Yeah, Ren basically is like, all right, now I'm going to call my mech because like we're cornered, but we can still take these people. And they're just like, nah. Like the moment passed. It would have been cool to like take over the world, but whatever. We got bigger fish to fry. See ya.
I forget the exact justification, but yeah, they're basically like, well, with Sid and Richard here, it's just too much trouble. It'd be too much effort.
Only brought the one pair of pants. I'd have to go all the way home to get new ones. After I cover them in your blood. They
we're mostly skipping over a bunch of character stuff for Joshua and his former coworkers, but it's basically just feelings and Joshua being like, I'm not evil anymore and you can't stop me. But it's a very lengthy scene of back and forth, and it's really good.
And there's some like, I'm not evil and you can too.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit more of that later. So as things are settling down, we get a plot twist of a report coming in that an army is massing on the north of Hacken Gate.
Yeah, I thought the chapter was over, but then they're like, hey, Erebonia's gonna invade.
Yeah, like, kick them while they're down. Just, oh yeah, by the way, everything is broken, but also, that whole army shit that basically is still unresolved from 10 years ago is starting up today. So, good luck with that.
So this is really interesting. This is extremely interesting to be watching, like,
having played the games that take place in Erebonia.
Having played the games that take place in Erebonia, because like the story is, and they do a really good job, and I'll talk about it later when we get to those games too. But they do a really good job of like, this is what our side of the history looked like. Like, shit was scary, and we tried to prepare to deal with it, and it almost made a big problem.
Yeah.
But, anyway.
But also, prior to us getting the call that Erebonia is there, Claudia does let us know that she is officially, I forget what the fuck they call it, but basically
there's some special word for her getting the official being the heir to the throne, like invested or something.
Yeah, investiture or some shit.
Invested.
Yeah, because basically, I don't know if this is normal in monarchies, but in this game at least, so she's always been next in line, but she can always say no. And she, as of the morning here, she has officially said yes. So now she has stuck her claim into the throne. So if anything happened to Queen Alicia, Chloe would instantly become queen, and all of the paperwork is done for that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that are like that comes and goes from monastical reign to reign, but like that's basically what it is. Like usually what happens is whoever's the big boss in charge dies, they have to go through this whole ceremony to like name the next one. Basically she's getting like, they're doing insurance, so if the queen takes like an orbital shot to the face and just keels over, it's immediately Chloe. There's no like question.
Yeah. Which probably would have solved Game of Thrones if Robert Baratheon would have just invested his kid or something.
I think what would have solved Game of Thrones is if everyone just chilled out.
Yeah, too.
I am convinced if toilet paper had been invented in Game of Thrones, none of that would have happened, because that's the only reason I can think that everyone is that angry all the time.
Yeah. Just have like literal sticks up their asses.
Sticks and like bits of hide, and you're just like, this is awful.
Normally when characters are acting this way, I'd say they need to get laid, but people get laid in that show plenty.
Yeah, and they're still not happy.
Maybe if they just had like a vacation, like a good, and not like a real vacation, not like I'm going to visit my in-laws vacation, like just like sit down and read a book. Sit down and learn how to read, and then read that book. You'll be calmer. Anyways,
so before we head out to Erebonia, which, hey, we did it. We made it to Erebonia, guys. We now don't have to play Cold Steel. We already visited the country. We're good. We can just assume what happens there. But before we head over there, Chloe does say that she's coming with us, because now that she is like Queen Junior, she needs to be involved in diplomacy things, and so she's going to go diplomat at the border.
Yeah, and the queen is immediately like, yeah, good idea, do it. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And we find the Erebonia 3rd Armored Division. This is important. It is mentioned in passing in this game and becomes more obvious and prevalent in later games. The 3rd Armored is their elite. Like, they're the veteran tankers, which is a big deal in this game, in this universe.
Can I try to guess your tank reviews of these tanks?
Okay, sure.
Where the treads are, there are wheels, which is not good, and also the tread shaped thing is rigidly attached to the body, so that they're kind of just like a fucking push cart in your high school, and not actually good at being tanks.
I have to properly bring up the picture, because I realized that I had words to say about these tanks, but from the tanks in later games.
Here, there's a picture in the chat.
If they're the same, because I do like this universe that like they have multiple different tanks. that are in theory supposed to operate because they do. Yeah. Okay. So these are their heavy tank variants. Yeah, you're right. The treads are terrible. They have a medium Airbonian military has a medium tank variant that's actually pretty good, but it's their only good one. So like these are tank destroyers, which means that they have a fixed turret. Useless because you have to rotate the entire tank for firing.
Yeah.
The other real bad part is you can see the obvious rivets. That means that it's not folded armor plate, it's riveted together. So like so because of the angles of the armor, angle is important. You get a lot you gain a lot by having good angles on a tank. To deflect the shots up or left or right. But because it's riveted armor, that actually makes it super dangerous. So like, and the eye slits are in the way. There's no need for those eye slits because there's no MGs there. And the tank commander should be sticking out of the top, directing from there anyway. So like, there's no good place on this where the armor isn't, especially in the front of these tanks, there's no good place on this where the armor won't cause catastrophic penetration. So like the gondola slits, that's weakening the armor right up to where the rivets are. Maybe the little part just next to the gun cupola, but like they're not great. And the clearance is terrible. So like, what are you going to do if you have to move that tank up a slightly rocky incline? Well, you're going to get stuck and then have to abandon the tank.
Yeah. They're not good. But on the other hand, they are steam powered where nothing else is. So when the people on the other side have swords, maybe a subpar tank is okay.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of World War I would disagree with you, but I mean, you're not wrong either. Also, like they're fantasy tanks. Like they just look cool.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Anywho, as
this has been Matt's fun tank fact science corner.
Yep. I'm so sorry. So, anyways, it is important. This is led by the illustrious Lieutenant General Vander.
And we're like, Vander, where have we heard that name before?
Because it is Mueller's uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Lieutenant General Zex Vander. Remember that name.
Lieutenant General Sex Vander.
That would have been a better name. And we think he's the big boss in charge.
Yeah, he basically says that.
I'm sorry, I just read the chat.
But catastrophic penetration sounds like a band name.
Or how you ended up in the ER.
But Vander says that they're there to lend their tanks and their army so that they can help take down the Ouroboros. They're just totally there to help, and it's totally not an invasion, though our whole army is going to occupy all of your cities when we're done. Hope you can understand that.
And they're like, why do you have steam tanks anyway? That's pretty sus. Did you know this was going to happen? And they're like, who can say?
Who can say?
I don't have to answer that.
So
we get more into this in later games, but do not let me forget that. However, and it's at first we're led to believe that Lieutenant that Vander is the one in charge, but it is in fact the hold on.
You're skipping over the most important part of this chapter. So
Right.
Vander and Morgan are like duking it out verbally, saying like, "Oh, you can't come in," and they're like, "Oh, but we're going in. You can't stop us because you have swords and we have tanks, et cetera, et cetera." And then
I think you're
Chloe
going to
shows up. Chloe shows up in a new outfit,
And it's
that-
fantastic.
Oh, that one.
Owns.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Our little girl Chloe's growing up.
Yeah, it's
Even
so
though she was more mature
freaking
than
good.
me to start with.
And she takes over the negotiations, and there's just so much really good dialogue.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then the real.
So I just saw, because I'm following along on the LP like I usually do. Her outfit is great, as y'all saw it, but look how great it is in Evolution. Let me show that off.
Oh man, yeah.
It's fucking great in the Evolution art style, man.
It's pretty
It's-
great in the other art style too.
Yeah, they're both good. I just incredibly love it
Yeah.
with the Evo art style.
But after this is when the real big boss in charge of the entire unit reveals himself. It is the Imperial Prince. Drumroll. Prince Olivert Reese Arnor. Dun dun dun.
It's hilarious to me because they're all French. His name is Olivier or Oliver, and you have called him Olivert on accident a bunch of times. That's not really a reveal that his name is slightly different. It's a very common thing, but it's always tickled me pink. Then you were like Olivert. I'm like, not yet.
I know, but like I knew him before, Sam. I knew him before.
I thought you were just getting the name wrong because you'd like misread it or something.
No. He
It is 2 letters difference.
no, like he is a. Okay, this isn't a spoiler because he is the Erbonian crown prince.
He shows up later, and that's as much as you need to
I
tell
know
us.
he shows up later. I know he's
Like,
an important character in the Cold Steel games, which makes sense.
And that's why like my brain was just filling it in, and I was like, nobody will get it. Sam got it, but
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's all good.
But yeah, I love how Chloe's playing it cool, but the rest of the party is just immediately among themselves like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
What the actual fuck?
and he is playing the Game of Thrones.
He is real serious business here.
Yep, and this is one of the depths of the character. I'm really happy we get to see it in this game, where like he can turn on business mode really well, and this is him in full business mode. You know, he's doing everything he has to. He's like, I don't know any of you people. I am a statesman of import. Witness me. Until later.
So they have a couple back and forths where Olivier is like, "Oh no, you see, I am Oliver. You met Olivier, totally different person, totally not me." And Estelle calls him on his bullshit loudly and starts to arbitrate, because that's what the Bracer Guild is supposed to do, is arbitrate as a neutral party. But Estelle is doing it because she's mad at Olivier, and it's hilarious because
Estelle deciding to arbitrate this was really funny, and I think an interesting wrinkle in this scene.
It is pretty great. They come to a compromise.
Yeah,
which
basically Estelle, as our arbitrator, says that like, oh, us bracers are hot on the case of the Ouroboros, so we don't need Erebonia to come and help us. And Oliver is like, oh, fucking prove it, because right now you've just taken out all orbal power for the southern half of Erebonia, and we're not just going to let that fly. And Estelle's like, we got gumption and moxie,
And
I
friendship.
guess, and friendship.
We got the power anime on our side. Deal with it.
And Oliver is like, well, I don't think that that will be good enough. And then, of course, Cassius then shows up in the Arceal and just flies down their big ass, grand ass battleship, being like, "How about this, motherfucker?"
Yup. And at that juncture, they're like, okay, the Arceal will go investigate the Liber Arc, and the Prince and Mueller are going to go and observe, make sure it isn't a threat to the Emperor, and then, they got 3 days, or the army, or the Third Armored is moving in.
Yeah. And then, as the army goes to back up, turns out that Cassius fucking knows everything, and he already knew that Olivier was Oliver, and told Olivier his plan, and they've been having this in the fucking works for a while to just...
I love... This is why it was so hard for me to, not love Olivier from the get-go.
I mean, I did love him from the very get-go. He's a great character.
He's... this is one of the very few games where, I don't want to get into it. I can't get into it because it'll go into spoilers.
It's great.
It's great.
It's one of the few old games that are great.
Yep, it's great. Well, no, okay, this isn't a spoiler because we just talked about it with Agate.
Mm-hmm.
The characters, this series is one of the few where when they introduce a character that is unlikable, you can almost invariably guarantee that by the end of the game, you're going to be like, oh, my precious children, here they are. So, Agate is a great example. None of us gave a crap about Agate. And here we are. And,
we didn't like Kevin either.
We didn't like Kevin. We didn't like Olivier. I was kind of I was on the fence about Tita for a while. I'm like, she's just the little girl science trope.
Mm-hmm.
And when a JRPG introduces a small child as a party member, you're like, oh, I've gone down this road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this can go a bad place, and I don't like it when it goes the bad place.
It's either going to be the science kid trope, or for some reason, they're going to get trapped in a different dimension so that they can age up, so that they can come back at the end of the game as a grown-up instead of a child. Xenogears and Final Fantasy IV.
Yes. But, and without going into spoilers, the series consistently nails that.
I believe that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So anyways, once all of the stagery is over, Olivier goes ahead and he's like, "Hey man, I was just doing what I had to do."
They go into it a little bit. So if you remember, prior to us even sniffing out Ouroboros's tail at all at the beginning of the last game, Cassius was checking on some weird shit that was going on in Arabonia. That's when he met Olivier, and there is some weird shit going on in Arabonia that presumably, I'm guessing, is what Trails of Cold Steel is about, and we'll get there eventually. And this whole backup plan was not necessarily a backup plan for the Areola shutting off everything, all orbits forever, but they figured things were going to come to a head because of the shit happening in Arabonia, and there's bad eggs in the bunch trying to do some shit. So Olivier, you're a good guy. You're going to be my man on the inside, and we're going to prevent full-scale war from happening between our countries by playing our cards right, including this whole showdown thing that we have going on here. Which
yes,
is cool and is not just there's a dragon and the dragon is going to turn the world into darkness, so we have to go and kill the dragon, which is basically most RPGs. Like, this is political without it being like about necessarily like kings and princesses and like those sorts of political things. It's like because everyone's doing machinations, which is cool.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, every country is going to have its warhawks, right? Because war's good economy, as ugly as that is to say. So, like, you have, and it is, man, I don't want to get into it. Okay.
But it's good. And
it's good. It's very good. Remind me at the end. I'll write a note. I'll write a note for myself to continue what I was going to say later. But
yeah, like, the part that made me fall in love with the first game is Joshua and Estelle are going on their normal JRPG quest. Like, their go around to all of the things and do an adventure is fairly not cliche, but it's fairly like by the numbers. But everyone around them is doing machination stuff. So when you get to the final chapter and everybody reveals their hands and all the dominoes line up and fall down, it was like mind blowing to me. And this is kind of that, but we didn't even see these dominoes get set up. We just like, it's happening, and it's happening all around us, and the world is so alive because of that.
We as a party have been gently guided in all the directions we needed to be, so we could be in the right place at the right time with the necessary tools. And we're seeing that unfold right here, and it's so goddamn cool.
Super good.
So anyway, all of that aside, he says, look, that's what I had to do. Everybody piles on up. Kevin shows back up. I don't remember when he shows back up.
He's always showing up.
He's always just showing up. He's the guy at the party who's like, you always look at him funny, but he brings DiGiorno, so it's fine. So anyways, we got the whole hee-haw gang aboard the Arce. Professor Russell, he was already there. Niall and Dorothy, both of them even. Everybody plus Kevin. The only buddy who's somebody who don't come is Cassius.
They have some scene where I think he's talking to General Morgan where he explains why he can't actually do shit.
Yeah, he's it's like because Cassius is a big time player, and he specifically mentions that like Weiss, I'm well known to Weissman, and if I show up, he might do something unpredictable. And and it makes it sound like so far everything that has happened has been approximately predicted by Cassius. And his cohort of folks who know capital N and
or
like
capital K,
capital K, Yeah, that one.
Spelling's hard, man.
It's hard. I wasted all that money on an English degree and I still can't spell. But like he specifically says like, but it's fine that I don't go. Like, I know that they can handle it. So we're airshipping around to the Liber Arc, and the Glorious shows up, and we get a shoot. We get a what?
I think this is going into the next chapter.
Yeah, that's next chapter, buddy.
Okay.
The chapter ends with us basically saying, "Hey, we're gonna go fly everybody. We have the whole team together. We're gonna fly up to the floating city, and it's gonna be our chapter-long big-ass dungeon, and that's what we're about to do."
Okay.
Right before we get on the airship, Cassius hands Joshua a mysterious letter, tells him, "Don't read it now. Read it when you're alone. It's just between us," which potentially will come back later, I'm guessing.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I did too until I saw it happen right here. I'm like, that seems probably important. But yeah, the chapter ends after Cassius and Morgan are like, "Oh, well, everything's gone according to plan. I trust our kids to go and fuck shit up." And obviously, in Japanese, Cassius says the title of the game, because the next chapter is called Trails in the Sky. And his line says, Lena and great benevolent Idios of the sky, shine down where your children must walk, please, that beneath this enormous sky, they might find the path they seek. So close to Trails in the Sky. Probably just didn't translate well to make him say these trails in the sky.
No, it's got to get to the end of the movie, and he's going to look straight into the camera. They're going to spend...
Yes, it really was.
Yes, it really was. The trails in the sky. Sunset. The end. So, question mark.
Does anyone have any pending memorable moments? Because we dropped in a lot, and this episode is running really long. Do you have any more that you would like to bring up?
I have something I'd like to say.
Go for it.
The reveal of Oliver, and not just the plot twist that he's the crown prince, because we probably could have guessed that, but just the reveal of that side of this character is so good. And the fact that this is a different game than the one he was introduced in, and this is like 60 gameplay hours removed from when he was introduced. The fact that they can do that because they just have this massive, sprawling series of interconnected stories, and they have this one story spanning multiple games. They can do things like that, and it's just so cool how we suddenly get this new side of his character, and I love it.
And his outfit is awesome, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. So now that we have the Oliver reveal out of the way, I'm going to say an overarching one that I've been saving up to this juncture. So I know there are parts of the internet who are like, you need to start here and work your way forward. And I think that's with these games, and I think that's probably true. But at the same time, the game feels different in a good way if you do what I did and start with Trails of Cold Steel and come back and play Trails in the Sky. So, like, I got really excited and happy when I saw Oliver, like, right away. Because I knew he was in the game. Like, that's fine. But, like, ooh, what game you playing, buddy? What game you playing?
Yeah. If there's anything that I learned from Star Wars is that if you tell the story the first time and it's like, oh, you fought with my father in the Clone Wars, that can mean anything. Or you can tell the story where you watch the Clone Wars and then that is a flashback instead of a foreshadowing. You can tell stories that are well told in almost any order. And I can definitely see this game being the same sort of way.
There are some parts where, like, I think there are stops, right? So, like, I would say from Trails of Cold Steel 3, like, you want to stop it after Trails of Cold Steel 2 and at least go back and play part of Trails in the Sky. And probably, I don't think there's anything you're going to see in the later games that are going to make you not want to play Trails in the Sky or Trails of Crossbell 1 and 2.
That hurt my soul, calling it Trails of Crossbell 1 and 2. Please don't do that again.
I was fishing for a reaction. I got what I came here for. But anyway, and with the newer versions, they do give you a pretty good, like, in-game wiki. Like, hey, here's the stuff you absolutely need to know from these other games you haven't played. But you could also not read that and be totally fine. Like, it reminds me very much, and, like, seeing it in a video game, like, a sequential video game is wild to me. Because it reminds me of something a good friend of mine, Ryan, he's probably not listening to this one. He doesn't do JRPGs. But if you are, Ryan, thank you for all the comic help. So, like, when I was first getting into comic books, I was like, it's so overwhelming. There's so much to read. And he's like, just pick a place. You don't meet a person and their story begins. Like, you are meeting that person for the first time, but they have a whole lifetime of things that have happened before you met them. And as you spend more time with them, you fill in those background pieces. And usually that doesn't, like, translate super well in sequential video games, but I think here is one of the few times it can. Because, and I'll use Oliver as the example again. Like, this is one of those things that, like, oh, so this is what you were doing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those, like, fill in, flesh out moments where, like, a few more pieces of the puzzle fall into place, and I'm like, oh, okay, so, okay, I get it now. And that's really, really cool.
Speaking of Oliver, I just got completely. This is gameplay, not story spoilers on the two new games, Reverie and whatever that we're going to end up translating Akatsuki into. But Oliver is a party member because, like, on his wiki page, it has what his orbment looks like for both Hajimari and Akatsuki. So he now is in 3 of the 4 sub-series, which is great. Love that for him.
He's great.
But yeah, Bernard, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on before we?
Oh, I had one.
I threw in all mine during the recording during the early parts of the recording because I was so excited.
Me too.
I think I threw mine in. The showing up of the intelligence division, like the unexpected cavalry in anything is one of my favorite tropes. That's it. That's what I got.
That's good. So yeah, these episodes could not exist if we weren't shown so much kick-ass love from all of you listeners. So if you are listening to this in the after times, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any donation will get you these episodes a month before everybody else does. I cannot I can no longer promise how many episodes we have in the bag. It used to be 4, then we slowed it down to 2. This month, it's currently 0. Right now, there are all of the episodes online are an episode that is in the feed. So whoops, but you do get them before everyone else at least. So head on over there if you want more. Other than that, for Book Club no Kiseki, I've been Sam Ullman.
I'm David Bernard Houck.
And I've been trying to keep my mouth shut.
And not doing a great job. Adios, amigos.